Oh, hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Mr. Sanders Twin again, and we are back on the couch. Oh my, so last week was quite a doozy, but I feel like this week is going to be a lot better. The sun is shining. I got a lot of rest this weekend. I feel ready to go, and I hope you do too. But hold on a second. Where's some wood that I can knock on really quick, because I don't want to jinx it. But anyway, I have a feeling it's going to be a great week. Anyway, so where we left off, Gabe was in the embassy and he learned some concerning things about the Outlast. So Gabe is waking up now, so he's back in the real world. So let's go ahead and pick up where we left off. Let's go. Chapter 13. Gabe was not under attack, but he was underwater. He came sputtering to the surface and found himself still under a bridge. It was dark. He could see reflected moonlight in the pool beneath the waterfall. This time he actually felt rested. Sorry, the envoy said from the rock above. My apologies. Mea culpa. I am culpable in your soaking. I tried to wake you before you fell in, but I couldn't. With time and practice, it should become easier to transition between your waking life and entangled travel. I hope that you will actually have the time to practice. Gabe climbed back onto the rock. Me too, he said, shivering. The water was cold. The rock was cold too. He pulled off his clothes and wrung them out one piece at a time. Then he dried himself off with a small camping towel from his emergency backpack and put his clothes back on. What did you learn? The envoy asked. Did anyone seem surprised to see you? Did they try to find out where you are? Not really, said Gabe. Pretty much the opposite. He described the embassy visit while rubbing his hair with the towel and trying to get water out of his ears. The envoy listened. It shifted between different shades of purple as it listened. So that's it, said Gabe. Our neighbors claimed to be leaving, and they didn't seem to want anything to do with me. So we still don't know who is shooting at us, and we have to worry about an Outlast invasion. And I don't understand what Omegan tried to warn me about. I didn't always understand the neighbors either. The plant made no sense to me at all. Even translated, he still didn't make any sense. Gabe had a thought that he didn't like and didn't want to say aloud, but the envoy remained an expectant shade of purple, so Gabe kept talking. What if what if the aliens shooting at us are completely alien to me? What if I can't ever understand why they're doing this? How can I stop them if I can't translate what they want? I don't even get most of my own species. Frankie's mom makes no sense to me either. I can't tell how she feels about anything. Okay, let's go ahead and answer the first question. What is Gabe anxious about? Make sure you are paying attention to these few sentences of this paragraph. What if the aliens shooting at us are completely alien to me? What if I can't understand why they're doing this? How can I stop them if I can't translate what they want? I don't even get most of my own species. All right. If you need a sentence starter, you can use Gabe is anxious about blank. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Breathe, Ambassador, said the envoy in an excellent imitation of Mom's most soothing voice. Gabe took a breath. This took effort. Whatever else occurs, the envoy said, slowly and still soothing, you should trust in translation. Life anywhere and everywhere has very much in common. The nature of survival makes sure this is true, and social creatures enjoy and require communication. Understanding might be difficult, but it is possible. Always. Gabe nodded. He tried to convince his breath and pulse to both relax into a steadier rhythm. He tried not to pay attention to simmering discomfort way down at the foundations of himself. The envoy took a new breath of its own and held it for a bit before speaking. What I still don't understand is how the Outlast could be moving so quickly. It should have taken them thousands of years to spread so far. The previous ambassador was concerned about this. It's why she left the system. What happened to the previous ambassador? Gabe asked. I wish I knew, the envoy admitted. Gabe spread out the towel on the cold, clammy rock, hoping it would dry. Tell me more about the Outlast, he said. How are they even allowed to join the embassy if they go around conquering planets and killing off other civilizations? Everyone is allowed to join the embassy, Gabe, said the envoy. It is surprising that the Outlast bothers to send an ambassador, given how little they regard other forms of life, but everyone is allowed. The Outlast intends to be the only sentient species left standing when the universe collapses. They believe that the end of one cosmos will lead to the birth of another, and that the next one can be shaped by whoever is still around when it happens. So they mean to be the only ones left. But they used to be content to just wait until the end came, assuming that everyone else would die off by then. Now they seem less patient. I would have told you about them earlier, but we haven't had much opportunity to prepare you between embassy visits. Protocol is still pretty grumpy about that, said Gabe. I'm sure, said the envoy. It sounded like it would be rolling its eyes if it had separate eyes to roll. Gabe fished out a package of Galletas Marias as a midnight snack. He chewed the cookies in a slow and thoughtful way, chewing over new information at the same time. A faint electronic noise chirped somewhere nearby. Gabe flinched. At first, he thought it might be some sort of alien drone seeking him out. Then he realized it was coming from the outer pocket of his backpack. Gabe dug out his cheap cell phone. He had missed a couple of calls, followed by a single text from Lupe. The little screen glowed in the dark beneath the bridge. It's late. Why aren't you back yet? Mom's back. I told her you went to bed early in Frankie's room, so she doesn't know you aren't here. She went to bed early too, but the twins are up. My arms are full of twins. One of them is trying to eat my phone right now. Where are you and why aren't you here? I'm fine, he wrote. Don't worry about me. He didn't tell her that he was hiding under a bridge or that he couldn't risk coming back to Frankie's house because he didn't want energy beams to burn through the sky and ceiling while he was there. Come back, she answered immediately. Now, please. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about Mom. She needs you here. So do the twins. Can't come back yet, he typed, still doing secret stuff. Lupe texted scathing and terrible things at him. Gabe responded with smiling emoticons. Fine, she wrote. How's the planet? Still here, he typed. Good job. Tell the purple goo to keep you safe. Get back here ASAP. Okay? He wondered how long that would be. Then he forced himself to stop wondering, finished his cookies, and mulled over galactic genocide. I don't think the Outlast is after us, he said. Not yet, anyway. Agreed, said the envoy. They wouldn't bother with secret assassinations, and they might not even notice this world, given that Terrans are barely spacefaring. It seems more likely that the Outlast would focus their conquering attention on civilizations that take up more space. We may yet remain safely outside that attention. Gabe nodded. That's pretty much what Sapie said. And Cathan O'Megan himself told me not to tell him anything. He agrees that I should avoid catching his attention, which is odd. I don't understand why. And I haven't learned anything about those ships in the asteroid belt or the ones shooting at us, and we can't stay down here forever. He rubbed his arms, shivering. Even summer nights could be cold in Minneapolis, especially underneath the bridge. All right, let's go ahead and answer the next question. Why do Gabe and the envoy think the Earth is safe from the Outlast? Make sure you're paying attention to these few sentences right here. And they might not even notice this world, given that Terrans are barely spacefaring. It seems more likely that the Outlast would focus their conquering attentions on civilizations that take up more space. We may yet remain safely outside that attention. If you need a sentence starter, you can use Gabe and the envoy think the Earth is safe from the Outlast because blank. All right, let's go ahead and continue. We shouldn't stay here, the envoy agreed. Your enemies, whoever they are, can track your location. It's dangerous to remain in any one place for long. While he packed his few belongings and put his damp sneakers back on, Gabe tried to think of where they might run to next. Downtown had larger buildings and more shelter, but it had far more people in it. He didn't want anyone else caught in the blast when the next attack found him. It would make sense to stay on buses and trains to keep in constant motion, just to be a moving target. Destinations and directions wouldn't matter. But he didn't have enough money to buy transit tickets forever, and neither the buses nor the trains would run all night. Is there any way to block the entanglement signal to keep them from tracking us? Gabe asked. Should I wrap myself in tinfoil? No, the envoy told him. It would do you no good to wrap yourself in tinfoil. The ground beneath them moved. Boulders in the stream bed shifted. Gabe grabbed the one they sat on with both arms. The ground held still. Gabe also held himself very still. Is that what a landing spacecraft would feel like? He asked, his voice low. The envoy shook its mouth. That came from below us, which makes very little sense to me. The boulder beneath them rumbled again. Gabe felt fear scrape his insides. He took up his great grandfather's cane and reached for his backpack. The stone cliff beside the waterfall broke apart. A metal shape emerged. It looked like a basement silverfish grown to dragon size, with dozens of legs extending from joints all along its length. Several legs pushed outward from the cliff face. The burrowing craft lowered itself and peered beneath the bridge through the waterfall spray. A red disk glowed like a single eye at the very front. You should run, Ambassador, the envoy said. Gabe ducked and scrambled behind the boulder. A beam of burning light swept through the space beneath the bridge and severed the envoy's throat. Puppetish limb and body slid off the rock in two separate directions. The envoy's mouth still moved, still tried to speak as it dropped into the water and sank. All right, last question of the chapter. What are Gabe and the envoy running from? Make sure you're paying attention to this paragraph right here. The stone cliff beside the waterfall broke apart. A metal shape emerged. It looked like a basement silverfish grown to dragon size, with dozens of legs extending from joints all along its length. You can use a sentence starter. Gabe and the envoy are running from blank. Chapter 14. Gabe did not move. He no longer knew how to move. The boulder broke apart, and then Gabe moved very quickly. He scrambled between the stones to get back to the shore. One foot slipped into the water and suddenly became much colder than his other foot. He climbed the railing to the hiking path. His sopping sneakers squelched. The cane rattled in his hands. Both of his hands shook. They shook from the raw force of adrenaline rather than panic or fear. The scraping terror he had felt before was gone. The ache of the envoy's loss was also gone, shut off and set aside. Both emotions would come back later, if Gabe lived long enough to feel them, but in that moment, he knew only running. Another energy beam roasted the air nearby. A tree beside the trail burst open. The sap inside boiled as though struck by lightning. Gabe ducked away from the spray of hot tree blood and ran harder. He moved in a haphazard way, zigzagging like Sir Toby did whenever the fox played the chase games that taught him how to hunt and how to escape when something else was hunting him. The sinuous metal thing tore through the creek bed. It splashed water and scraped against stones, moving parallel to the hiking trail. Then it lunged forward to slide downstream ahead of Gabe. The craft turned, reared up like some sort of spitting snake, and fired another beam from the glowing red cannon at the tip. 2 more trees burst and burned. Gabe threw himself sideways, sneakers slipping against the trail. After the skid, he ran back the way he had come, back toward the falls. He wondered what he would do when he reached them. I'm cornered, he thought. I'll never get up those stone steps fast enough. This is a dead end. The words dead end repeated in his head to the thudding beat of his sneakers on the trail. Dead, dead, dead end. He didn't actually get that far. The alien craft surged back upstream, climbed the bank with its many legs, and blocked the trail with the length of its body. Gabe tried to keep from slamming into it, slipped, and slammed into it anyway. The craft coiled itself around him, a huge metal spiral with Gabe trapped in the center. It raised the front half of its length to peer down at him. The head-like shape was a cockpit, the face made out of thick and semi-transparent material. Gabe couldn't see through it, couldn't tell whether there was a pilot inside, someone he could talk to, communicate with, reason with, someone he could demand answers from. Tell me why you're doing this. The craft moved slowly now, keeping Gabe trapped while it took careful aim. The coils contracted, the cockpit lowered, the cannon glowed directly above his head. Gabe drew Toledo steel from inside his great-grandfather's cane and drove the blade up into the cannon. The red disc shattered. Arcs of energy raced up and down the length of the craft. It reared its head back and writhed. He held on to the sword hilt, though he probably shouldn't have. The machine's whiplash motion yanked Gabe off his feet and into the air. He let go of the hilt too late and went flying like a slingshot stone. Time almost stopped, or at least Gabe's perception of time slowed down to a careful, deliberate crawl. He saw the moon above him. It looked close enough to touch in the clear night sky. Gabe had just enough time to think, this is going to hurt, before he landed in the pool at the base of the waterfall. It hurt. Gabriel Sandro Fuentes opened his eyes. It didn't help. He couldn't see anything. He didn't know where he was. His back still stung from hitting the water. He moved his arms and legs. This took effort, more than it should have. They moved sluggishly, the air around them very cold and oddly thick. This isn't air, he realized. This is water. I'm still underwater. That's bad. He took in a sharp, surprised breath and noticed that he could breathe. Air surrounded his head, but not the rest of him. He tried to touch his face and couldn't. He touched the outside of a flexible bubble helmet instead. This is weird, he said, and heard himself say. His voice sounded strange inside the bubble helmet. Gabe had a high tolerance for weirdness, but his new circumstances still qualified as unexpectedly odd. Shapes glowed in front of him and moved across the surface of the helmet. Scripts and hieroglyphs wrote themselves into his field of vision, brightly purple like bioluminescent jellyfish. They shifted into something more like recognizable text, though Gabe still didn't recognize it. All right, let me see if I can try reading this. Yeah, don't know what that says. The purple color was familiar, even if the written language wasn't. Envoy? The glow vanished. New words appeared. Hello, Gabe. Sorry about that. Apologies. Your confusion is my fault. I tried several different alphabets before remembering which one you'd be familiar with. Gabe poked the outside of the bubble helmet with one finger. The glowing words rippled in front of him. This is you? You made yourself into a helmet? All right, let's go ahead and answer the First question of chapter 14. How does Gabe survive being submerged for so long? You'll find the answer that you're looking for in this paragraph right here. Air surrounded his head, but not the rest of him. He tried to touch his face and couldn't. He touched the outside of a flexible bubble helmet instead. You can use a sentence starter if you'd like. Gabe survives being submerged for so long because blank. All right, let's go ahead and continue. I did, the envoy wrote on its own surface. You were briefly unconscious after the impact and would have drowned. I'm sifting oxygen from the water around us and filtering out the carbon dioxide you exhale. Thanks, said Gabe. I thought you were dead. I'm glad you're not. That sounded dumb to say out loud, but it was true, and he didn't know what else to say. He didn't feel capable of saying anything else. Moments ago, he had been alone, completely alone, without home or family or envoy. Now he wasn't. Every emotion his brain had set aside came back to him now. He felt them all at once. That made it very difficult to speak. I'm not dead, the envoy wrote. I'm also glad about that. My bodily systems are evenly distributed rather than concentrated into separate organs, so I can lose much of me and still remain myself. You're far more fragile and might be injured. How do you feel? Ow, Gabe answered. He crawled along the bottom of the pool and checked himself for impact injuries as he moved. He still couldn't see anything beyond the bubble helmet of Envoy, but he could feel the water flowing downstream and away from the thunderous, bubbling froth of the waterfall. I don't think I broke anything. Good, the Envoy wrote. Still, you should try not to exert yourself. Move slowly, and be very careful as you leave the water. The attacking craft has not moved since you stabbed it with a sword. I would have felt the shuddering vibrations of its movement otherwise. But it might not be completely inert. It's unclear how much danger you're in at this moment. Do you think I killed the pilot? Gabe asked. He was not at all sure how he felt about the possibility. It might not have had a pilot at all, the envoy wrote. If it did, then you may have killed it. But you should know that many forms of life have a clear ethic of self defense. Though many also agree that violent conflict has a terrible and entropic cost, I'm sorry that you have suffered this cost. Gabe said nothing. He had nothing to say. He crawled along with the current until the creek became more shallow. Then he climbed up and out, shivering. The moonlight looked purplish through his bubble helmet. The envoy dropped down from his shoulders and took up its usual shape. Let me investigate first, it whispered. Okay, Gabe whispered back. Try not to get beheaded. I don't have a head, the envoy pointed out, but I'll try to avoid getting bisected again. Gabe rubbed his arms and jumped up and down, trying to warm himself. He listened for the clanking of the alien craft in motion, but it lay silently curled up on the trail. Gabe also listened for shouting or sirens from above the ravine, but he didn't hear those either. The park was closed. No one in the surrounding city had noticed the fight, apparently. He went searching for his backpack and found it. Then he found the scorched piece of Envoy. It was down among the rocks, oozing around as though looking for the rest. Gabe picked it up. Hey, he whispered as loud as he dared. He glanced over his shoulder to make sure that no wounded alien pilots were sneaking up on him. I found your missing piece. The envoy didn't seem to hear him. It climbed a tree beside the trail and looked down, surveying the scene. Then it jumped away from the branch, stretched itself out, and glided in a slow spiral like a falling leaf. It landed on the inert craft. Gabe half expected the thing to leap up and try to eat the envoy, but it didn't move at all. He crept closer to the trail. His sopping shoes squelched underfoot. The envoy oozed along the edge of the cockpit, pushing and prodding until a hatch opened. Faint lights pulsed inside. Nothing came out. The envoy went in. Gabe waited for a few heartbeats, or maybe for 5,000 years. He wasn't really sure which. Envoy? Hello? Are you okay in there? The envoy's puppetish mouth popped up from inside the cockpit. Hello, it said. I think we can relax for the moment. We don't seem to be in any immediate danger. The craft is automated or possibly controlled remotely. There is no pilot, unless the smear of sooty ashes was once a pilot, but I doubt it. The ash seems to be pure carbon. That doesn't help me identify its source. Almost everyone is carbon based. Carbon is a very useful molecule for life to use while building itself up. All right, let's go ahead and answer the next question. What does the envoy discover about the aircraft? Make sure you're paying attention to this paragraph right here. I think we can relax for the moment. We don't seem to be in any immediate danger. The craft is automated or possibly controlled remotely. There is no pilot. If you'd like a sentence starter, you can use the envoy discovers the I said aircraft in the question, but let's say spacecraft. So that seems more accurate. The envoy discovers the spacecraft is blank. All right, let's go ahead and finish up the chapter and answer the last question. Gabe held out the scorched and severed piece of envoy. Here, he said, build yourself up. The envoy hopped down from the craft and then tried to absorb the rest of itself. This looked difficult and possibly painful. The lost piece sat inside it, discolored and wriggling uncomfortably. Gabe looked away. So there's no pilot, he said. Is there anything about the ship that you recognized? Anything that might tell us who they are? I have figured out what the vehicle is for, the envoy said, its voice proud and self satisfied. Me too, said Gabe. The evidence is kind of subtle, but I'm pretty sure it's an alien assassin's attack ship. Wrong, said the envoy. It might have been repurposed as a weapon, but that's not its purpose by design. This is a mining craft made to harvest veins of ice. We are dealing with ice pirates, and definitely not an organized invasion force that the Outlast might employ. The cannon that you broke is an ice cutting drill, not a gun. That's why its aim is so bad. A military device would have been better at hitting a moving target, but ice does not run away. It still hit you, Gabe pointed out. I wasn't moving, said the envoy. I was encouraging you to move instead, and you're welcome. Thank you, said Gabe, remembering what it was like to be entirely alone. So, are they mining here, on the planet? Is that why it was burrowing around? I very much doubt it, the envoy said. I think it was just trying to sneak up on you. Too difficult to lift resources off world. There's no need for them to expend all that effort. Plenty of ice in the asteroid belt, where I first noticed their ships. Much easier to find it out there. Much easier to avoid notice, too, which is clearly important to them. I'm not so sure, Gabe argued. Big metal dragon bugs don't seem sneaky to me. Each attack has been carefully and cautiously directed, the envoy pointed out. They are shooting at you, but not the whole city and not the whole planet. They must fear the attention of an ambassador who might communicate their piracy to the rest of the embassy. They fear exposure. So it follows that your best response to these attacks would be to expose them. How? Gabe asked, frustrated. We still don't know who they are. The envoy grinned wide. I think I can repair this craft, it said, excited and proud. We can go find out. All right, let's go ahead and answer the last question. Why are ice pirates trying to assassinate Gabe? Make sure you're paying attention to this paragraph right here. They are shooting at you, but not the whole city and not the whole planet. They must fear the attention of an ambassador who might communicate their piracy to the rest of the embassy. They fear exposure. And a sentence starter you can use is the ice pirates are trying to assassinate Gabe because blank. All right, everybody, that is it for chapters 13 and 14. I hope you enjoyed them, and I will see you in the next read aloud. Until then, take care.